Good evening, Zoom attendees and Facebook Live viewers. Welcome to our third MeetPSP webinar session. During this session, please feel free to post your question in the Q&A function on Zoom and Facebook Live. In your question, please identify yourself and which area you are staying in. Without further ado, I shall hand over to Mr. Craig Teo, our moderator for this evening's session. Craig, over to you.
Right, thank you very much there. That was Grace who is doing the voiceover for MPSP 3. Hi, my name is Craig, everyone, and welcome to the third MPSP. In case you're wondering what the M stands for, it's already on our flyer. It stands for Meet PSP. So I hope everyone is feeling great tonight. I'm a little bit tired. It's been a long day for me. So many things are still going on, but one thing is for sure that's going to be happening in Singapore. We have all the signs there is pointing to it, whereby the GE is very likely to be coming soon in Singapore, probably next month. And well, we are doing our best to get ready for it. So let's like to let everyone know as well. We have got a few things lined up for you this evening. We have a poll that we're going to conduct. We also have the trivia questions where you get to win some really, really nice prizes from the good people of PSP. At the same time, we're also looking for people who may want to join PSP as a member and so on and so forth. So if we can just do the first thing, which is to show people the slide whereby by people, can we bring up the slide whereby we want to encourage people to join us as members, and we also need a lot of good people to become our volunteers. Okay, to be our volunteers, to be a polling or counting agent. Take note of this. I'm giving you a hint first because later that could be one of the trivia questions. Okay, so for those of you who are interested to join PSP, be a member or a volunteer, that is the URL for you to go to. And for those of you that want to join us as a polling or counting agent, because we need a lot of these volunteers to help us as well, remember, you don't need to become a member of PSP. You can just volunteer and become our polling or counting agent. We will be conducting training for those of you who are interested to join us as a polling or counting agent. And I repeat, you do not need to become a member or join PSP as a member. We are looking for volunteers. So those of you that have the inclination or the heart to help PSP in the next GE leading up, which will be happening very shortly, please go to the link there and sign up on the URL that's given on the screen. At the same time, we bring on the slide whereby, because to conduct a general election is a very expensive affair, so we're going to spend a lot of money. And of course, PSP right now will be appealing for donations, right? For those of you who are able to make a donation, is only open to Singaporeans and age 21 and above. Only Singaporeans can make a donation to our GE campaign fundraising. So we have there, if you want to do a transfer by PayNow, we have our DBS Bank UEN number. It's T for Thailand, T1 like Terminal 1, 9, then the number is SS0061 with the alphabets EHOL. That's England, Holland, Osaka, London at the back there. So once again, our PayNow number is T1, sounds like Terminal 1, and 1, so it's T19 SS, not 55, it's SS001 EHOL. That is the PayNow number. And for those of you that maybe want to send us a check, please make your check out to Progress Singapore Party, and do indicate your name and contact number or email, because we need to take a record of the people who make donations to us, and you can then send the check to Progress Singapore Party HQ 170 Upper Bukit Timah Road, Hex 14-04 Bukit Timah Shopping Center, and the postal code there is 588719. So we thank you for your donation. And for those of you who have a smartphone, you can even scan onto that QR code that was on the screen right now as well. So that will bring you to our donation page on our Facebook, not Facebook, sorry, our website. So the other thing right now is a bit more fun is I like to show the prizes that you guys are going to be able to win this evening. And can we bring the slide on with the prizes for the trivia questions we'll be asking? So let's see the prizes first. Yes, for trivia time. Okay, these are very worthwhile collectibles. We have PSP polo t-shirts to give away. We have a total of 5 for the first trivia question. And the next prize we're giving away for the trivia time questions, we are giving away 5 PSP caps. Okay, the very nice caps. And the last trivia question, in total 3 questions, we'll be spacing them out. We won't be asking them all at one go. So you must stay with us to find out what it is. And after that, the last prize for the third trivia question, we are giving away 2 of our very adorable and cute Otika otters. Okay, so I wish you good luck for those that want to take part. You must stay with us right to the very end. And every time we post the trivia question, the first 5 persons to send in the answers to is by email. You have to send it to contact@psp.org.sg. That's where you will send the answers to when the trivia is up. And we also have polls tonight. We're either conducting 2, maybe 3, and there are only 2 questions per poll because these questions we will want to get the feedback from Singaporeans to know what are the issues that are hot issue buttons for you guys that are your concerns. And when PSP do battle for the GE that's coming, and when they get into Parliament, they will be able to highlight some of the concerns and issues that Singaporeans is close to their heart. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I'm going to introduce the panel right now. And the first person that I'd like to bring on is none other than the SecGen, which is the Secretary General of Progress Singapore Party. He is the one and the only Dr. Cheng Bock. Welcome, Doc, to the show. Hi, Doc. I can't hear you. You have to unmute yourself, Doc.
Okay.
You see, because I think what happened is Dr. Tan Cheng Bock has got a new laptop. So sometimes this kind of things happens. And for his age, he's considered very good already. He can still do all these Zoom webinars and things like this. So Doc, say hello to Singapore.
Yes, hello everybody. Do I say a few words now, Craig? Or
of course. The floor is yours, Doc.
Oh, the floor is mine. Thank you so much. Okay, welcome all of you who are watching this show. You may be asking why we are doing this. Okay, to be very honest, this is our engagement program to reach to the ground. As you know now, under COVID, we cannot engage you at the ground. My style is I like to go and meet you all. I like to walk the ground, talk to you all. But unfortunately, under this circumstance, I don't think I can ever do that. So we have to resort to this sort of engagement through the internet. But I find it very challenging, and I think I'm learning a lot from all the younger members of my party. Okay, so let me take this occasion just to say a few words about PSP. Well, PSP started about 1 year ago. We had 12 people who volunteered and signed up, and we got ourselves registered. That was exactly about a year ago. And that's how we formed the party, very simple. But we were worried because after forming the party, we were wondering whether people will come and join us, because the composition of the party were actually quite old people. I'll be very honest with you. In fact, they all laugh at me and say, look, this old man is trying to form a political party made up of what they call the dad's army, where all of them are so old. How can he ever reach out to Singaporeans? But I think I was lucky, and now we have from 12, we have grown to more than 1,000 people. In fact, every week we are conducting Meet the New Members program. And so I'm glad that the party has grown very, very big. Now, at this stage, when the party starts to grow very big, then we'll be encountering a lot of problems, but we have managed to overcome all that. So now we are engaging the ground. Because at the end of the day, we have to come to you. We want to hear you. We want to know your problems before we ever embark on this journey to Parliament. The new members of PSP, it's really very, very encouraging. I've members as young as 22 years old, and I'm the oldest. Nobody has caught up with me. I'm 80 years old. Most of them, well, many of them Merdeka generation and below. A few pioneer generation, but generally it's a fair mix. We have a really good spread of people coming to join us. Well, some are very scholarly, some are not so scholarly, but they have a good heart, and that's more important, because when you really want to enter Parliament, you are going there to serve the people. So your qualification is only one aspect of the quality I'm looking for. I look for people who have a good heart, who think of this country, who want to look after this country well. So, well, this evening you're going to hear some of the members, and you'll see for yourself. You can ask them all the questions. I'm not going to answer all the questions, because they are the ones who's going to look after Singapore, not me. I'm only preparing the stage for them to come forward, and I will guide them and help them, because they will have to look after you people in the future, your children, your grandchildren. So I will pass the mic to Greg. I assume that most of you know me, my history, so I will not take up too much time, because this particular session is to meet the members of the PSP. So Greg, can I pass the mic to you now?
Hi, dear Singaporeans. Very happy to meet you again today. This is my third MPSP with all of you. So I won't introduce myself too much. Actually, now we should be concentrating on spending time to show care and love to our family members and to our countrymen, and try to get out of this COVID-19 situation as soon as possible. However, the government never fail to remind us again and again that there is a need to have a general election. In our opinion, there's no need for a general election right now. At this stage, the lives and livelihoods of our fellow citizens are far more important than politics. But if the election comes, we will have to fight it. If an election is held, there will be no rallies, and we will have more of you. We have to rely more on technology, like this webinar that we are doing now. So going forward, we intend to plan for more webinars based on different topics and languages. Like last week, we had a webinar on startup and entrepreneurship, because going forward in a new economy, we expect a lot of our young Singaporeans will be taking up the challenge of entrepreneurship. Next Friday, we'll be doing a webinar on the problems of the small and medium-sized enterprises, to allow us to discuss the problems faced by our small companies and to come up with ideas so that we can help them to overcome the problems. So going forward, even if there's little physical interaction between us, bear in mind that PSP has lined up a lot of online programs. So do follow our website and our social media very closely, and together we'll continue to maintain active discussion and interaction. Thank you. 亲爱的新加坡同胞们，今天非常高兴跟你们见面。我是梁文辉，新加坡前进党的助理秘书。本来我们应该把时间花在互相关怀和照顾的方面，尽快脱离这个冠状病毒的纠缠。但是政府一直在说我们要举行大选了。其实对我们来讲，在这个时候， 最重要的是我们大家的生命和生活，这个比政治还要重要。但是如果选举真的来了，我们前进党会很努力的去应战。在这样的情况下选举，我们大概会有很少的机会直接见面和交流，所以我们会越来越依赖网络的技术。也因为这样，我们也计划了一些更多的网络节目，跟大家交流互动。比如说上星期我们做了一个创业的网络研讨会，下周五我们打算做一个中小企业问题的网络研讨会，让我们多了解我们现在的中小企业到底面临了一些怎样的问题，然后我们去想一些政策来帮助他们。所以请注意，以后虽然我们可能没有多少的机会能够聚在一起和直接交流，但是前进党已经计划了很多网上的节目跟你们一起互动交流，希望你们踊跃的参加。谢谢大家。
Hi friends, I'm Nalla here, a founding member and treasurer of Progress Singapore Party. We respected Doc so much. I know he had this ideal of creating a Singapore, a more compassionate Singapore. And if we shared his ideals, that's why we were part of the founding members of Doc to support him and also help our fellow Singaporeans, especially the lower strata of society, to uplift them. I'm glad that you all can join us, and we want to understand your concerns and aspirations for Singapore, and let's together build a better future for Singapore. Now, please allow me to say a few words in Chinese, Malay, and Tamil. Thank you. 王家好 Singaporean， 我的名叫 Nalla， 我是新加坡前进党的台长，谢谢你们来参加这渴望落雁大会，谢谢。Now in Malay. Trying. Teman-teman yang mulia, nama saya Nalla, Bendahari untuk Parti Kemajuan Singapura. Saya bersama senang hati melihat begitu ramai daripada Anda berada di sini untuk mengetahui apa yang boleh dilakukan oleh PSP untuk Anda. Kami di sini untuk mendengar dan memahami keprihatinan dan aspirasi Anda dan bersama-sama membina masa depan yang lebih baik untuk Anda dan keluarga. Terima kasih. Now in Tamil. என் இனிய மாலை வணக்கம் சிங்கப்பூர் குடிமக்களே. என் பெயர் நல்லகருப்பன். நான் சிங்கப்பூர் முன்னேற்ற கட்சியின் பொருளாளராக செயல்படுகிறேன். சிங்கப்பூர் முன்னேற்ற கட்சி உங்களுக்காக என்ன செய்ய முடியும் என்பதை அறிய உங்களில் பலர் இந்த கருத்தரங்குக்கு வந்ததற்கு மிக்க மகிழ்ச்சி. உங்களுக்கும் உங்கள் குடும்பத்தினர் அனைவருக்கும் ஒரு பிரகாசமான எதிர்காலத்தை உண்டாக்க எங்கள் கட்சி பாடுபடுவோம். மிக்க நன்றி, வணக்கம். Okay, a brief introduction of my biodata, my family background. I'm married with 2 kids. I actually admire my dad. He came from humble beginnings, His dad passed away at the age of 14. He brought up his family and he had the perseverance and determination and brought up his family and rose near the top of his career. And this is the story of Singapore as well, to survive despite all odds, especially now with this COVID situation. I'm confident we will overcome this and we will come even much stronger. In terms of educational background, I'm a chartered accountant. I graduated with a Bachelor of Accountancy degree from the National University of Singapore. My work experience, I started as a tax accountant and an auditor with Ernst & Young, worked there for 4 years, subsequently moved on to multinational oil and gas exploration company as a regional senior accountant for 2 years. And lo and behold, I've been working in the capital markets, the stock market, for the past 26 years, is about a quarter of a century. I've seen a lot of market cycles up and down, and now even with this COVID situation, the markets are down, but it's starting to recover. I'm sure eventually our markets will be much better, and the Singapore economy will be much stronger. And why did I join PSP? I just feel that, you know, although we have Singapore's growth, the growth is not evenly spread. The top 20-30% are doing very well, whereas the bottom 60% to 70% are not doing so well, especially the bottom 30 to 40%. I think we need to have this segment of the population. I think we have a heart, like what Doc said, you must have the heart for the people. And that's why we are here. And also, in terms of, I want to respect Mahatma Gandhi's quote, where he said, "Be the change you want to see in this world." So I want to be part and do something in my own small way to make this world a better place to live in. Thank you.
So the next person that I'd like to bring on is Taufik. Taufik Supan, your floor is yours. Hi Taufik, say hello to Singapore.
Hey, terima kasih Greg. Assalamualaikum tuan-tuan, puan-puan dan rakan-rakan sekalian. Apa khabar semua? Dengan berbesar hati, saya diberikan penghormatan sebagai wakil ahli panel Progress Singapore Party pada malam ini. Saya yakin perwakilan saya ini bukanlah sahaja untuk PSP, malah demi untuk masyarakat dan juga negara. For the benefit of everyone, what I just said is that it is an honor for me to be here tonight with all you wonderful people as one of the panelists for PSP. I trust that me being here tonight is not just me, I'm representing PSP, but also for my community and the nation. A little bit about myself. My name is Taufik. I am 40 years young. I come from the generation which missed the opportunity of growing up in the kampong. But trust me, if you talk about the Singaporean spirit, I know how that spirit feels like. I grew up playing soccer in the void deck, in the open fields. I also play goalie. I catch fish and tadpoles in the longkang. I catch spiders with my friends and neighbors whom they are Malay, Chinese, Indian, and others. We play hard, we study hard, and more importantly, we look out for each other. Even our parents, they know each other and they keep a lookout for each other. But things are different now. The Singaporean spirit, I feel it is slowly diminishing. Nevertheless, I am happy tonight because we all have come together for a common purpose. I come from a typical middle-income Singaporean family where I was the eldest among 3 siblings. Coming from a typical Singaporean family, we are just okay. We are not so well-to-do. I'm just like many of you out there. The things that I want may not come by easily and I have to work hard for it. I am not a scholar also. In school, I was just the ordinary student, just like most of you. I'm just a normal student. However, I achieve what they achieve. If they achieve a bachelor's degree, master's degree, being the ordinary student I was, I too have achieved that. I also graduated with honors too. Anybody can achieve anything, regardless of where you come from. I believe I achieved something more even which they don't. I earned that valuable experience of going through the hardship. I learned how to clear the obstacles in front of me and I keep pushing forward. One of the perks being an ordinary student and not a scholar, I have to pay for my own education. I did odd jobs in the day and I attend night classes because I needed to find money to pay for my own school fees. So it was tough. I know it was tough. So I know how it feels like to be most like how a typical Singaporean feel because I have been there. I am a technologist by trade. I have many years of extensive professional experience ranging from managing multi-million-dollar projects in large multinational corporations, managing global teams in government, and also managing startups. Please know that I am just like you. I understand. I have gone through what many of you have gone through. Please give me and PSP your support. I look forward to our chit-chat later. Marilah kita mengeratkan silaturahim malam ini melalui perbincangan kita nanti. Terima kasih semua. Back to you, Greg.
Okay, thank you very much there. That was a wonderful introduction there by Taufik. And the next person I'm going to bring on is not a stranger to many of you. He doesn't hail from this part of the world. He was born in the UK, and then he's been here for many, 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 many years. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome one of the panel members for this evening, Mr. Brad Bowyer. Brad, the floor is yours. Say hello to Singapore.
Thanks, Craig. Hello, everyone. So as Craig said, my name is Brad Bowyer. I am a newer citizen who was born in the UK, although I have lived the majority of my life here in Singapore. I first came here in the mid-1980s as a teenager. I followed my parents when my dad got a job at the Singapore Polytechnic Computer Centre. Those early years, I studied at Anglo-Chinese Junior College, ACJC. And being the Angmo, I had the privilege of being a minority of one, which is a very unique position to be in, but I loved it all the same. Now, after JC, I did go back to the UK because I'd had a childhood dream of being a commando. Unfortunately, a serious injury cut that career short. So I had to go somewhere. My parents were still here at the time. I came back to Singapore in 1991. But from there, I have never looked back. I met my wife, a local-born Chinese lady, 26 years ago. This year, we celebrate our 21st wedding anniversary. Our son, who is 18, graduated from ACS Barker. He's currently studying at LaSalle before he goes on to do his national service. Although I only became a Singapore citizen in 2011, most of my friends, my significant life events, and my memories are here. So after 35 years, although I may not look it on the outside, on the inside, I feel very Singaporean. Now, my career background is film, television, and theatre. I mean, my colleagues that have already spoken have very illustrious backgrounds. I think mine's a little bit more basic. But I have worked for companies like Disney and Nickelodeon. I've had my own companies, and I've produced shows that have gone around the world. Most of that career has been self-taught and on-the-job training. But I have recently completed a degree in mass communication and public relations. And I get my final results next month. So my fingers are really crossed on that one. I've been involved in the political scene since the general election in 2011. So that's almost 10 years now. Back then, I noticed that there were many issues affecting all of us. Our lives were getting more difficult and our country was going in the wrong direction. I thought I could help Singapore. I thought I could help it better by getting involved. So I joined grassroots. I volunteered at my MPS. I got involved in many national events. I did several National Day parades and a lot of other things. And I gave feedback wherever I could. But after 5 years with involvement with the PAP, I found we really have little influence on the ground. We can't do anything from the ground up. So I left and I was very disheartened. I explored for some time how I could help. What could I do? And I was, to be honest, a little bit lost. But then Dr. Tan founded Progress Singapore Party. And I knew that I had to join it because their vision, their mission, and their values, they really aligned with what was inside me and what I thought Singapore needed. Now, as was mentioned, many of you know, I am highly active on Facebook and social media. I like to explore issues and I like to stimulate this national conversation. I believe with two-way communication, we can come up with better ideas than any of us individually on our own can. Of course, my strongest desire at the moment is to help PSP make Singapore a better country, a country where Singaporeans come first, a country where we're going to have a chance not just to survive, but to thrive as well, because we all deserve better. And that's my little introduction. Thank you for listening, and back to you, Craig.
Thank you very much there. That was Brett Bowyer, who may have hailed from the UK, but he has spent a large part of his life in Singapore with his Singaporean Chinese wife and his son. Okay, lovely. Let's get on with the show. We're going to bring on the next person is Dr. Yong Guan, who's a psychiatrist by profession. So Dr. Ang, welcome to the show, and say hello to Singapore, please.
Hello, fellow Singaporeans. I'm Dr. Yong Guan. I am a practicing psychiatrist. I was 23 years with the Singapore Armed Forces. I left in 2003 and I've been practicing at Paragon Medical. I have done 15 years of grassroots work and more than 30 years of community work. And I'm a firm believer that the country cannot be controlled by a dominant party, so dominant that laws are easily altered, constitution changed, and we feel helpless at the bottom. I want to contribute as much as I can so that we can have at least 1/3 of opposition MPs to deny the ruling party the 2/3 majority. To me, the 2011 general election was a watershed election. That was the first time the PAP lost a GRC after 22 years. I took part in that general election, and the ground was really hot and angry, which prompted the Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong to apologize to Singaporeans for all the mistakes PAP had made. Then come 2015 general election. 6 months, it was held 6 months after the demise of the founding Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew. And they actually seized the opportunity to hold the election in 2015, September. And I can see that Singaporeans were grateful to the founding Prime Minister, and they transferred the gratitude to his son, Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong. And during the general election, all over Singapore, there were posters of the Prime Minister. And it's this transferred gratitude, in my opinion, that led the PAP to a resounding victory, 70%. And but I felt the momentum of the opposition should not be lost. It started in 2011 and it should continue. And let this general election be another indicator that we cannot be taken lightly as citizens, that our views matter, and do not allow them to make use of COVID-19 to write on it and then to benefit from it. We must continue the momentum of the opposition, first started in 2011. I would now say a few words in Chinese. 各位新加坡同胞，我是洪永元医生。我相信你们曾经看过我出现在第8波道和第5波道，尤其是早安你好节目，小毛病大问题。我参加前进党是为了替人民讲几句话，是为了我们新加坡的未来民主的发展而贡献。谢谢各位。Back to you, Craig.
Thank you very much there, Dr. Ang Yong Guan. 谢谢。OK， 我们现在是最后一位吧，对不对？好，就是最后一位 ，we save the best for last， because she is the only rose among the sunflower And this is none other than Kayla Low. Welcome, Kayla, to the program and say hello to Singapore. Is yours, the floor is yours, Kayla.
Hello, thank you, Craig. Let me say a few words in Mandarin. 大家好，我是罗淑义，很荣幸今天在这里与大家分享。我中学毕业后就在一家电子工厂工作，以抚养我的父母和兄弟姐妹。我天生好学，我梦想成为一个会计师，因此我半工半读，考获了会计学士学位。It is my honor to be here today to have a sharing with all of you. I started working at the age of 18 as a factory worker after completing my secondary school to support my parents and my siblings. But as a keen learner, I set my goal to be a finance and accounting professional. And so I took up a part-time study to obtain my bachelor degree in accountancy while juggling the work and family. I'm now a fellow member of ACCA and a chartered accountant. Presently, I am the group COO and CFO of 11 local companies and 4 overseas, spanning retail, manufacturing, transportation, and travel, which is the top 3 largest inbound travel company in Singapore. In March this year, my company was awarded the SME 500 Award, which is an endorsement of the business position within the industry. The key policy that I'm advocating are job priority for Singaporeans, ample development for all old flats, and the third one will be public services should not be priced to make profit. We have a responsibility to our children, to everyone's children, to build a better and more compassionate Singapore. Thank you. Over to you, Craig.
Right, thank you very much. That was Kayla Low. Oh, so all these, you notice a lot of panelists, they never had an easy rise in life. You know, they had to work very hard, and most of them are not really the scholar type, but it doesn't mean they're not educated, right? Singapore, so they had to work, and some of them juggle work with a career. You know, I mean, study at the same time. And Kayla, chartered accountant. Well, that's quite serious, and managing so many companies. So, folks, the purpose of tonight's Meet PSP is because we want to give Singaporeans a chance to answer questions. So post your questions on Facebook Live or on the Zoom webinar, depending on where you're logging in from at this current moment. So folks, post your questions. And I have a couple of questions that have come in to me right now. And I'll just open this up to the panel and see who would like to take on these questions. Okay, the first one I have, Facebook Live question by San Sao. What can ordinary Singaporeans do to ensure better results for PSP in the coming election? Wow, that's a very good question. What can the ordinary Singaporeans do to ensure better results for PSP in the coming elections? So anyone from the panel like to answer this question? What can ordinary Singaporeans do?
I have a quick answer for that, Craig.
Okay, sure. Yes, Taufik.
Just a quick one.
Yeah,
just like what I mentioned during my introduction just now. Please give us your support. That's all.
Give us okay, just give us your support. So let everyone know when we're having our webinars, you know, tell your friends about it. And very important, I think one of the key messages for PSP, they're not trying to take over the government. They just want to have at least a one-third representation. So they deny the incumbent a two-third majority, so they cannot just change important laws, especially pertaining to the constitution. So yeah, plain and simple. I love that answer, Taufik. Just give us your support. Okay, the next question I have that's been sent to me is from Facebook Live by Gigi Fogg. What would PSP do to help the many who are jobless now? What would be your initiatives or new strategy? So who would like to take on this question posted by Gigi Fogg on Facebook Live? Anyone?
Okay, great. I'll take on this question.
Sure, Nalla.
Yes.
Yes, the floor is yours. Go ahead.
You see, now actually Singapore is facing one of the toughest, if not the toughest situation ever. You're talking about more than 100,000 people may be displaced. And a lot of livelihoods, especially among the PMETs, those in their 40s, 50s. A lot of them, because even before the COVID itself, a lot of people were displaced because of the gig economy. Now the COVID situation has made even worse. So as a party, we believe that first, we have to look after these people. We must look after the immediate. So in the sense that if they have been displaced, we should have some sort of an unemployment benefit, laid off benefit, something like maybe 6 months to help them out. And this is only a short-term measure. Going further, we should actually make sure not only, the government, yes, have been providing training programs for them and all that, but beyond training, we must actually get them the jobs. So we are suggesting as a party that they may be employed by the party, by the business, and then sent for training. The government should subsidize or pay for full in training, as well as during the training period, the government should pick up the tab. And also, 70% of employment comes from small and medium enterprises. So we would, as a party, strongly recommend that we need to give adequate support to our small and medium enterprises. They will be our backbone for the future economy of Singapore. Yeah, and then also in terms of training, we will provide more facilities, adult facilities for training, especially now along with a fast changing economic landscape. The skill sets have changed. We need to upskill them. The future is not being a Grab driver or Grab delivery person. I have nothing to look down on them. It's an honest day's job. The future is we have to move up the value chain and provide decent jobs and a decent income for Singaporeans. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much there. That was Nalla Karupan, who is the treasurer.
I would like to add on that.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Manwai.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, to add on to what Nalla has said, I think basically PSP has three steps to tackling the jobs problem. One is we think that it's inevitable that we have to look at, review all the arrangements that our country has with other countries at the moment, specifically like with India and all that under the free trade agreement. I think given that the COVID situation has caused us a lot of jobs, it's inevitable that probably we will have to recoup some of the job losses. We have to take probably some of the jobs from the current market, from some of these foreign PMAC. Okay, but more importantly, we think that we also have to accelerate programs to ensure that our Singaporean, especially the new graduates, are trained with the right skills. Okay, in the new digital economy. Okay, and third, of course, PSP has a full-fledged plan to build a new or to create a new economy around technology and around SMEs. That's why just now I mentioned in my introduction that we are holding webinars on startups, on entrepreneurship, and also on the problem of the SMEs. So that is the approach that PSP is going to take. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was Assistant Secretary General, Mr. Leong Manwai, there, adding on to what the Treasurer, Mr. Nalla Karupan, was saying. Okay, the next question I have is from Lady Sharon Lin Yi Hui. She said, will PSP demand for more transparency regarding state funds? I think that's a given, right? So who among the panel would like to answer? Doc, will you want to answer that? Hi, Doc. Okay. You have to unmute the mic, please, Doc. If not, we can. Okay, lovely. Yeah, it's been unmuted. Yes, Doc. The floor is yours.
Sorry, I can't see my face. Oh, yeah.
Okay, we can hear you now. Yeah.
I think transparency is the cornerstone of one of our thinking when I started this Progress Singapore Party, because I was there in the early days with Mr. Lee Kuan Yew and the first generation leaders. We placed a lot on transparency, accountability. These are the important things. And also, we also it also include this independence of appointments of people. You see, all these form the fundamental pillars of what forms a good government, because these will create trust with the people. And if there's trust with the people, you can go about developing policies and doing a lot of things because there is a lot of commitment by the people to support you. That was during the time when I was with the first generation leader. And we embarked on very, very, very tough policies. Some policies like graduate mother policy, maybe some of you are not so familiar, where we give priority to graduate mothers in education and all that. It was very, very tough. But the people followed us. And also, we also realized that after a while, that was a lousy policy. And we are prepared to take it away, to remove it for the interest of the country. So I don't want to elaborate too much on this because transparency, I said, is so important. For example, we want to know, for example, even the salary of the CEO of Temasek, for example. These are very, very simple questions to ask. This is a moral issue. And we must have that accountability and that transparency to let the Singaporeans know what is, for example, the salary of the CEO of Temasek. It is very basic because if people are still questioning, then I think something is not very right. Okay, I'll stop here and we'll talk something else.
All right, thank you very much. That was Secretary General of PSP, that's Dr. Tan Cheng Bock. Okay, the next question is directed at Dr. Ang, and he would like you to answer. John from Tampines. And the question for Dr. Ang is, why is there still fear in Singapore when it comes to voting against the ruling party, PAP? So, Dr. Ang, the question is directed at you. Once again, the question was from John from Tampines. Why is there still fear in Singapore when it comes to voting against the ruling party, PAP? Dr. Ang, the floor is yours.
Great, thanks. There are basically two kinds of fear. One is direct fear, fear of government and fear of government-related agencies. I think Singaporeans have been indoctrinated over the years, at least 6 decades. There are a few things. One, they would say Singapore is very small. Two, we are very vulnerable. We cannot afford to have a failure. Once we fail, we cannot come back again. And three, we are surrounded by big nations. So the vulnerability is intensified. And we can't afford a two-party system because we don't have talent. So year in, year out, we are indoctrinated with all the propaganda that we cannot allow to have diversity. We have to control the nation. And then people, when they don't vote for the ruling party, they are afraid that action may be taken against them. It's further compounded by the serial number. Everybody is worried that the serial number would trace their voting pattern, who they vote for. And they therefore have this fear. You know, when you go to the polling station, you hand in your IC and then they read your name loud. And when you take the polling card to the polling station, you are, afraid that the serial number will expose you. But let me assure you, the serial number has the positive side of making sure that ballot paper is genuine. And also, after 6 months, it will be brought to the incinerator and be burnt. And you will notice how come people, Aljunied GRC, Potong Pasir, those who voted opposition, they were very courageous, and you say nothing happened to them. So you don't have to worry about the serial number. So that is fear of government agency, fear of government, that government will take action against you. Now, government agency, the civil service, the police, the military, they are seen to be affiliated or linked to the government, and everybody is afraid if you go vote against, if you complain against them, the action will be taken against you. So that's a kind of direct fear that many Singaporeans have. And also they have been painting the opposition as weak people, people who cannot, are not suitable to run the country, and only the PAP able to run the country. So year in, year out, people grow up to realize that, don't talk about the PAP, don't talk bad about the PAP, don't vote against them, something will happen to you. Then there's this indirect fear. This indirect fear is nothing will happen to you if you don't go against them. And this indirect fear is in the form of suing people, suing individuals. If you remember Operation Cold Store in 1963, Operation Spectrum in 1987, exposing all these people, the communists, the Marxists, and instilling fear in people that if you criticize the government, if you align yourself with dissidents, opposition parties, you will end up like them. So this is kind of indirect fear that people have. And another form of indirect fear is what I call self-censorship. Many people, especially in the media, they again worry that if they were to give more airtime to the opposition members, the ruling party will be unhappy. So they practice a bit of self-censorship because fearful that the ruling party may take action against them. And all these, whether it's direct or indirect fear, they are no good for the nation. Fear is a negative emotion. We mustn't be fearful of expressing our views and voting who we want to vote for. So I hope moving forward, people are courageous enough to say, I exercise my right to vote. Which party I choose is my choice, and I will not have that fear. Fear is no good for maturity, political maturity of the nation. We are the first world nation in terms of economics, but we are the third world nation in terms of politics. So it's time that we change the atmosphere of fear. Back to you, Craig.
Right, thank you very much there.
Craig,
There was Dr.
Craig, can I add
Yong
on
Guan.
yeah.
Oh yeah, sure, yes.
Yeah. Okay, because fear is a very important topic. In fact, the first question asks, what can the questioner ask? How can they help PSP in this election? One of the things is really to explore what is fear. Okay, because if our fellow Singaporeans do not overcome this fear, then it will still be difficult for the alternative camp to make inroads. Okay, adding on to what Dr. An have said, I think economically, Dr. An has addressed a lot of the political and the legal aspects of how fear came about in Singapore, but also economically, that the policies conducted by the government has also actually enhanced that fear. Why? Because Singaporeans, even today, majority are still facing a lot of financial anxiety and insecurity. So given that kind of situation that you are in, any kind of scare tactics, you straight away, get very scared, and fear can come about very easily. Okay, so that is another factor that PSP is looking at as to how to alleviate the financial anxiety of Singaporeans. That's very important for us to break out into the next economic model. Okay, and one more thing, sorry for taking out a bit more time, is that there's also a fear that the government may fall. Okay, so that is also, in my opinion, a misunderstanding of the political system in Singapore. The political system in Singapore first has the winners take all system, which we took from the UK. For example, if you have 100 seats, 100 constituencies, you only need to win 51 constituencies, right? And out of the 51 constituencies, each constituency, you only need to win 50% plus 1 vote. So as a result, what it means is that the government only needs 50 times 51 and only 25% of the popular vote to form a government. So with the current entrenched position of our government, do you think the government cannot get the 25% vote? They will still form the next government. There's no fear that they will lose the majority. Okay, but it will be important for the alternative camp to move in to deny them of the 2/3 majority. Okay, so that is the system we took from the UK. They only need to win 51 seats out of the 100 seats. Okay, this is a hypothetical example. We don't have 100 seats, but in a hypothetical example of 100 seats, they only need to win 51% of the seats. And out of this 51%, only 50% of the votes of each of the constituencies. So the government only need 25% of the popular vote. Plus, you will say, oh, 51 battles to fight. Then, of course, the opposition will be able to find some good candidates to come and fight them, and they may lose some of the 51 seats. Not in Singapore. That is something very, very special in Singapore because we have the GRC system. Okay, that means 51 seats in Singapore means the government only need to win 10 GRC plus one more SMC. So you're not fighting 51 battles, you're fighting 11 battles to get a majority. Is that even easier for the government to maintain a majority and still form the next government? I think it is. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing that explanation. So in a way, based on what the Assistant Secretary General, Mr. Leong Manwai, just gave the example, actually it's not a level playing field. So the odds are really stacked against the alternative parties. So maybe, I know it's been, yes, Dr. Ang, you want to add on?
Following what Manwai say, you see,
Yes.
although they have only 60 to 70% of the popular votes, right? Opposition 30%, they have 70%. Yet they occupy more than 90% of the seats. This is the unique system here. They may have only 60 to 70% of the popular votes, but they occupy more than 90% of the seats because we follow from the British system, one past the post system. Okay? Yep, back to you.
Right, thank you very much. Okay, the next question that I have with me is from Amir Mirza Taufik. His question is, what would you do differently from the other political parties to represent the Malay community in Singapore? I think that might be directed at you, Taufik.
Hey, correct. Taufik here.
Yes, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Amir
Mirza.
Yes, okay. Thank you for that question. For every session, there's a Malay question. Okay, this one I have to take more than one sentence to answer. Okay, statistically, Malay community has progressed. We are better than what we are 20, 30 years ago. But the concern for me is that our pace of progression is not as fast as other ethnic groups. And if the viewers here watched the previous MeetPSP session, as mentioned by my colleague Abdul Rahman, the Malay community is still lacking behind in terms of education level, and our numbers are quite high in terms of poverty. Yes, this issue needs to be addressed. And with your support as a party, we, PSP, we are proposing doubling the Comcare payout to the underprivileged, together with the incentives for them to treat the scheme as this popular notion called social trampoline and not just a safety net. So this will help them to take care of their basic needs at least. PSP, we are also studying into introducing a reasonable living wage as a general wage policy after the COVID-19 situation has stabilized. It is a wage policy that is high enough to maintain a normal standard of living. This is something that is not impossible and can be done. But again, we need your support to do this. For education, we should stop funding foreigners and stop inviting them to come and study here where all their education fees and expenses are sponsored. This money should be invested in Singaporeans instead. We should invest in our people. We should grow our own people, our students. I really cannot register in my head. If we bring in students from other countries and sponsor them to study here, Why are we not doing the same to our people? They are the sons and daughters of Singapore. There is a saying, take care of your own family first before you try to take care of others, right? So it really breaks my heart to see Singaporeans who decided not to pursue their education because of not having enough money to pay for the high cost of education. Some have to struggle and do odd jobs in the day and attend night classes, like what I've mentioned just now, like me. It should be the responsibility of the government to take care of education in Singapore. Instead of taking care of foreign students, our government should take care of our own. I mean, I have been there. I have gone through that struggle because I am like most of you too. I don't come from the skies. I am not a scholar. I come from the ground, the very same ground that all you Singaporeans people walk. So PSP, UI, we shall walk this ground together with Singaporeans. Okay. So yeah, like what Nalla said, it is estimated that more people will be displaced from their jobs. So therefore, we should act responsibly and immediately to control the floodgates of foreign talents. If there's any jobs available out there, it should be given to Singaporeans first. The well-being of Singaporeans should be taken care of. PSP may be a young political party, but please give us your support. We can do this. Back to you, Greg.
Thank you very much there. Oh, lovely. I love the answer. There's you take care of Singaporeans first, huh? Thank you very much, Taufik. Okay, if there's no one to like to add on, the next question we have is from Holland Drive, Dr. Lee. The question is directed at Brad Bowyer. And the question is, what do you think of PAP's performance in the isolation, containment, and management of the COVID-19 pandemic? Is there room for improvement? Brad? Can you hear the question once again? What do you think of PAP's performance in the isolation, containment, and management of COVID-19 pandemic? Is there room for improvement? The floor is yours, Brad. Take it away.
Yes, thank you for the question. Obviously, the basic answer is there is a massive room for improvement. If you think about how you deal with an emergency, the first thing you do is get people out of danger, and then you work out what to do afterwards. When you're dealing with a pandemic, they call it the hammer and dance strategy. Very quickly, you go into some kind of lockdown, and then you dance your way back out of it as you work out what is the disease you're really dealing with, how do you keep people safe, how do you move on with your real lives. If we look at some of the countries around us, what did New Zealand do? They had less than 100 cases and immediately they locked down. They only had to lock down for 7 weeks. And as of 2 weeks ago, they've been COVID-free. No cases for 2 weeks. Their economy is opening back up, and they had only 1,500 cases and about 20-something deaths. Then we look at somewhere like Taiwan. They're right next to China, right where it stood out. Now, in their case, the WHO at the time was saying, no, you don't stop travel to China. But Taiwan was smart enough not to just listen to them, but to go out and find other evidence and go and see on the ground and go, hang on a minute, no, we have to do something about this. They stopped flights from China, and then they initiated a whole load of measures, which actually meant that they never really locked down. And as of almost a month now, they've had no more COVID cases. They only had around 440, and they only had 7 deaths. And they're right next to the epicenter of where it took place. And the reason I think both of those were so successful is because they had 3 things, right? In their task forces, they had domain expertise. They had people who were virologists who knew things about communicable diseases, public health experts. They also had hard, unadulterated facts. They didn't just take the word of WHO or what they caught in the media or whatever. They really dug down into what was going on. But before they even knew anything, they took a quick reaction. And then they had a clear focus on public health and nothing else. So let's start thinking about what they've done here in Singapore. The first thing, domain expertise. We had a task force, or we still have a task force, 10 ministers with an advice by Heng Swee Keat. Where amongst those 10 ministers is the domain expertise? A Minister of Health is there, but his background is an electrical engineer, a civil servant, and Nat Steele. So where is the medical domain knowledge to work out how to deal with this emergency? So there's something we need to think about there. Then you've got to think about the facts. Well, we know that we followed WHO guidelines a lot, and it didn't seem, and I still haven't seen much evidence, that they've been gathering the facts from all the other places, because there's much evidence coming out now that COVID is a different nature of what it was told to us right at the very beginning, which, as I'll tell you later, we're very, very lucky about. Because the other thing is, was there a clear strategy focused only on public health? If you think about the start, we didn't stop flights from China for a long time. We were concerned about China's feelings. We also had business concerns. So we had tens of thousands of workers from China coming back to Singapore. The word on the ground at the time was they were trying to get ready for a possible general election in April. So Singapore had to look as though not much was wrong. So what happened? We had hundreds and hundreds of Singaporeans traveling all over the world during the school holidays in March. And I think they came back to Singapore with a lot more than holiday memories, because we started having spikes just after that. So there were very mixed motivations in the response. And where are we now? Well, we had a late lockdown, and we've already been in a lockdown for 10 weeks, and we're going to have a slow walk out of it, and we have massive, massive economic damage. New Zealand only had to put in about 5% of their GDP, about 10 billion equivalent Sing dollars, and they're already on recovery. Taiwan put in more, about 50 billion. It was still only 5% of their GDP. And for them, their actual domestic economy is down a little bit, but their export economy is actually up. So net, economically, they've ridden through this without too much problems. We have put in nearly 19% of our GDP, nearly $100 billion, and our economy is going to continue to crash. So I think when you look at it on a whole, we didn't have the domain expertise, we weren't dealing with the correct facts, and we didn't have a clear focus on public health and public health alone. So those are some good lessons we need to learn, because if COVID had really been what we were told it was at the start, and it really was that deadly, we know it's very viral, everyone catches it. Fortunately, it's not really deadly, because if it was, we would be in a very sorry state right now, and we'd probably have a very big tragedy. So we have to do things very, very differently in the future if we have another pandemic of any kind or any disease of any kind. So my overall rating is they have not handled this very well at all, and we really need to hold them to account for it. That's my thought on it. Thanks, Craig.
Thank you very much, Brad. That was an excellent answer there. Okay, the next question I have currently is quite a long question. And I think Nalla has said he wants to answer this, but let me read out the question first. The question is, the 2016 IPS, I think that's the Institute of Policy Studies survey, highlighted significant racial preference for PM and presidency, even among young voters. Even before that, PM Lee and MMLKY have expressed that Singapore is not ready for a minority race PM. Considering the wider social implications of such a statement made by leaders of this country, how long before a corporate board decides they are not ready for a minority CEO? Okay, bracket say if they also did a poll on their employees and found a racial preference, close bracket. Furthermore, it is quite evident that public opinion has never been a true deterrent to the government enacting some of its unpopular policies. Any person who is qualified should be given fair consideration to become the Prime Minister of this country and not be discounted based on the basis of his or her race. So that means, is Singapore ready for a minority to become the Prime Minister? Nalla, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Craig. Thanks, Sachintaran Thiarajan, for your question. Yes, already now we are already coming to about 55 years of independence. it's about time that we move off from race being considered as, our NRIC should not be considered as whether we are Chinese, Malay, Indian, or others. We should move away from this and just consider ourselves as Singaporeans. As to this question, general feedback, ground feedback, we feel our Prime Minister should be a leader based on competency, meritocracy, and all that. We shouldn't be based on race itself. And also the ground feedback, general ground feedback is that a lot of people want Taman, who is really capable and a really honorable person, to be actually our next PM. So I totally agree with you. Race shouldn't be a factor. The person's competency and the aptitude definitely matters. And it's about time Singapore, after 55 years of independence, we should move away from race and be identified as a Singaporean. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much there, Nalla. So may the best man or woman take the job, not because based on race alone, right? Is any one of the panelists would like to add on to this? Or if not,
just
I'll
like
move
to
on
add on that,
Yes,
the
yes.
party completely and totally support what Nara has said just now. Yeah.
Okay, anything else to add on, Manwai? We'll move on to the next question. Okay, lovely. So the next question I have, and this one is from Facebook, and the question is by Tan Wee Ming. And the question from Wee Ming is, what does PSP plan to do to reduce the cost of living? So this is not directed at any particular panelist, but which one among you would like to answer this question? Once again, the question is, what does PSP plan to do to reduce the cost of living? So any panelists? Yes? Yes.
Can I take this one, Craig?
Sure, Brad. Brad, go ahead. The floor is yours.
I mean, I think we're going to look at it in a very broad sense. I think the first thing is we need to look at all of those essential public services that have been de facto privatized and are run for profit. When it's a public good and a public need, it shouldn't be run for private profit. So I think the first thing we would address is to get that back under control. Run them efficiently, yes. Run them so that they can reproduce themselves, upgrade, whatever, but not so a large amount of money goes off into a private shareholder's pocket. So that would be one very beginning thing we would do. We would also look at all of those fees that the government itself imposes, because they control a lot of fees and taxes that we have to deal with. And we would need to review the necessity for those and the levels that they should be at. And then, of course, something that one of my colleagues in one of the earlier panels talked about, Dr. Mengwa, is that we have very much a rentier economy. And the majority of the property and the facilities that we use are directly or indirectly in government control, either through their hands, government-linked companies, whatever it is. So we need to seriously look at that whole infrastructure as well and get the costs down there. So there are multiple different ways that we would look at to tackle this high cost of living. And of course, at the same time as we bring the costs down, we also would be bringing the wages up with the living wage that Taufik was talking about earlier, and making sure people got paid fairly for the work that they do. So it will be a multi-pronged approach to solving that problem. And back to you, Craig.
Right. Thank you very much there, Brad, for taking on that thing. And those are some of the things that really you can do.
I'd like to add on to that.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, PSP under our policy paper has a series of measures recommended to cut cost of living. And Brad has covered some of them already. I think the important thing to emphasize here, to stress, is that PSP intend to be a responsible and credible party. Okay, so we are not just increasing all this welfare and all over the place. Okay, we have thoughtfully thought out all the measures, and all the measures are actually also, we also have thought through the financing aspect of all these measures. Okay, so we have actually a series of recommendations, like I say just now, to alleviate the financial anxiety of Singaporeans. That will cost us quite a few $billion, but most of the money could be gotten by slashing some of the operating expenditures under the current budget. The government has been overspending in terms of the operating budget. Okay, so what I'm trying to emphasize here is that PSP do not just recommend policies to increase welfare, reduce cost of living without considering the corresponding sources of funds to fund those policies. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much there. That is Man Wai. Okay, another question we have now from Nigel Lee from Tanjong Pagar. His question to the panel: while the presence of multiple parties is a hallmark of a democratic society, how does the formation of Red Dot United affect opposition unity? Now, how does PSP seek to approach the other opposition parties contesting in the upcoming elections? Wow, that's asking for strategic information, So I don't know how are we going to answer this? Who would like to answer this? Anyone? Or is Doc privy to some of this information? Have you been approached by other opposition parties? I know they wanted to do an alliance and they asked you to be the leader, right, Doc? So who among the panel would like to answer this question? Once again, is asking, while the presence of multiple parties is a hallmark of a democratic society, how does the formation of Red Dot United affect opposition unity? How does PSP seek to approach the other opposition parties contesting in the upcoming general elections? Who would like to answer, please?
I think I better take this question.
Oh, you better, yes, Doc, okay.
Well, I think we cannot stop people who want to stand in this coming election. Everyone is free to take part in this election. The question is, what is your aim when you want to become a member of parliament? What is your objective? So if your objective is just for your individual needs and your individual glory, then I think it's a bit short-sighted. But if you look further and want to be part of a system, of a good political system that will harness Singaporeans together and build a good Singapore, with that objective when you go in. In other words, when you think of the country first, and also the people, then I think that is a good objective. Most of the political parties in Singapore, I think generally, they also think along those lines. Workers' Party also, SDP, People's Voice. I think they all do share the same philosophy as PSP. So if there are more other parties like Red Dot and Red Dot
United.
Okay, they are also free to come and participate. We are not going to say that they are wrong to participate. No, let them participate. But as I said, the objective is very important. Your focus. What is it that you want to do for the country? That is why PSP always emphasize that we must develop a trusted political system. And this, to have this trusted political system, you need good people. And good people are very hard to come by in politics because there's a lot of constraints when you become a politician. But if they overcome that inner conflict in them, that they should come forward and serve the country and not being fearful of having measures taken against you because you want to come and be that politician, then Singapore will be better off. So along this line, I think we welcome anybody who wants to take part in politics. But the motives must be very correct. The country comes first, the people come first. Okay? I don't want to elaborate more. I just want to say this very simple philosophy. Okay?
Right. Thank you very much there, Doc. The next question I have, and I think Kayla would like to answer this, okay? And no name is being given to the person who posted this question. The question is, what is PSP going to do to help SMEs? No wonder Kayla would like to answer this question because she's running so many companies. So Kayla, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you for asking this question that I can tap on my experience in running 11 SME locally. So first thing that I think our party that would like to campaign for is that we would priority to help the SME by giving or award the public service purchases and contract to local SME first, rather than like some of the ministers say, if you want money, the government will give you, but in fact it's not. They were actually asking the SME to go and take loan from the bank. But apparently, we all know, take loan, you need to pay ultimately. It's a matter of time, whether you pay now or later. So it's not going to resolve the entire problem, because the SME need is the income to sustain their overhead to employ the Singaporeans. Okay, the second thing that we want to because we want, what is the reason that why we want to help the SME is that 75% of the SME employ the local Singaporeans. So instead of the current budget that what government is doing, for example, the rental, instead going through direct support to the SME, but where else they go through the landlord, then pass down the property rebates to the SME, which is not going to help. Because the amount that is going to help SME, because a lot of majority, 80 to 90% of SME, they do not have a very big cash flow in hand with them. So some of them maybe they can hold on to the business like 2 months or 3 months. But taking loan from the bank, is the processing time easily will take about more than 3 months, and it comes with the high interest rate. At least it's 1.5% and above. And it's very hassle to take a loan from the bank. If let's say you have no professional accountants to help you to manage your account, it's very hard to take a loan from the bank. So ultimately, the government should step in this crisis to help the SME, that prioritize all the public sector purchases, contractor to the local SME, rather than give to any local MNC or GLC company. Second thing is that the direct support should be given direct to, the government assistance should be go direct to the SME, rather than have to pass from one hand to another hands, then at the end to reach this SME. But the thing is that based on the 10 billions, the budget, to be honest, I myself running so many SME, and I don't really see a lot of help from the government budgets. So, and another thing is that the JSS support also, not all the company is entitled for 75%. I would recommend that it should be a long term, so that the SME or business owner can have a longer plan. What is the future, what they can do, rather than they have to hesitate, oh, this JSS is going to up to June or up to July. Then that's it. What happened in the month of August and September? They themselves, the government will say that, oh, this pandemic, this crisis is going to last at the end of the year. Then why don't you, your JSS is also extend to that period, end of the year, then allow the SME to actually plan forward, rather than every month have to worry about the next month. That's all for me. Hand over to you, Craig.
Thank you very much there, Kayla. The next question I have is from Facebook Live, and the question is by William Tan, and his question is, what are you going to do about HDB values declining to zero at the end of its 99-year lease? Now, that is a concern for many Singaporeans, because we were told that it is going to be a forever increasing value, right? Then suddenly it's been revealed, and everyone like shocked, no? After 99 years becomes zero, kosong, nothing left, no? So this is a decaying lease, because once your HDB reaches 50 years and more, it's just gonna go and become nothing. Who would like to answer this question from the panel, please? What is PSP's, what is it going to do to about HDB's, the remaining lease issue? Anyone from the panel?
Okay, maybe I'll share some, and then probably Manwai is eager to follow up on that.
Okay, sure. So yes, Nalla.
Basically, our party's policy is the selective en bloc redevelopment rights. We feel all the 1 million HDB homes should be entitled for this selective en bloc redevelopment. So in the sense that if, let's say, the flats, 30, 40 years, they have the option to be redeveloped, or they also can sell away these rights. These rights, in the sense, they may work out to something like $100,000 to $150,000. These rights, when they sell, they can then use that to top up the CPF retirement account, because almost 50% of Singaporeans cannot meet the minimum sum. So this is one of the policies that we're thinking of, how we can try to boost up the retirement planning. So this selective en bloc redevelopment should be passed on to all 1 million HDB homes. Yeah, Manoj, maybe you want to add on?
Yeah, actually, Nalla has already explained quite well. Okay, suffice to say, maybe I add on by saying that why the party takes a stance that all the existing HDB flats ought to be given the right to enjoy SER. That means a selective en bloc redevelopment scheme. Okay, currently the government say that only 4% of the HDB flats are going to get SER, okay, to be redeveloped. So 96% of the existing flats would not get this right. But we think the government can extend the rights to all the existing HDB flats. And we have also done the calculations, how much it will cost the government. But because the SER process is going to last over the next 30 to 50 years, so the government do not need to come up one big lump sum, okay? But there'll be expenses every year, expenditure every year to satisfy the SERS program, okay? So this is our policy. The reason behind the recommendation of this policy is that, one, from the political angle, the government has actually given the impression that HDB flats are a permanent asset. Okay, that means it will last, forever, as an asset. Okay, so because of that, I think we think that the government has the responsibility to at least guarantee the value of the second-hand and the HDB current existing HDB flats through the SERS program. So if they promise to do SER for all the HDB flats, then the older HDB flats will not collapse in value. Okay. Secondly, is the economic angle, which is exactly, there's a fear that if you don't provide a program to satisfy the market, then as the old HDB flats prices collapse, it will actually drag down the whole property market. So from both the political and the economic angle, we think the government should adopt this policy of SERS for all existing HDB flats. Thank you.
Thank you very much there, Manwai. Okay, this question is from Facebook Live by Mr. Muhammad Zaki. And I think he wants to direct the question at Brett Bowyer. What is your take on the current situation regarding foreigners competing with local PMETs for jobs? Can you hear the question, Brett?
Yep, I got it.
Okay, it's all yours. The floor is yours.
Right? So thank you, Mohammed, for that question. Obviously, it is very wrong. Before the COVID situation, and we could still actually go out to a shop, my wife actually met an Australian who was managing a shop, and he was a fresh graduate out of school. And I'm thinking, why do we have a fresh graduate out of school from Australia getting a job in Singapore when our own fresh graduates aren't getting jobs? And of course, we know many of our PMETs are losing their job not once, but multiple times, the foreign PMETs. So one of the first things I think we're going to look at as a party is that we're going to say no more fresh grad PMETs, right? If you're going to come here as a foreign talent, you have to prove you're a foreign talent. which means you've got to have at least 5 years experience in your work. And if you haven't gone there, then why are you here? What can you add that a fresh Singaporean cannot add? So that also leads us into a following point where at the moment, we have 400,000 foreign PMETs here. We could have in the next 3 to 6 months, 100 to 150,000 more jobs lost. Why do we not then look at all of these foreign PMETs and say all of those that have got less than 5 years experience, sorry mate, but you've got to go back to your own country to make a living, because that job has to go to a Singaporean. And then we roll in some of the other things which Nalla was talking about earlier as well, is that they then get given the job and they do on-the-job training. So instead of putting money into something like Skills Future, where you sit in a classroom, it may not be relevant. You're in a job, you're skilled up in the job, and then you carry on with it in the long term, partially funded by the government. Doesn't matter that the productivity is a little bit lower now because the economy is starting from scratch again. So we've got a lot of time to reinvent and rebuild. So at base level, no more entry-level PMETs. You've got to prove you can add some value, and you come in to supplement the Singapore workforce, not replace the Singapore workforce. And that would be our stance on that. Thanks. And back to you, Craig.
Thank you
Craig,
very
can
much.
I add on?
Yes, please.
Okay. There's one solution that how we priority job can given to the Singaporean is that we should recommended to impose the quota and levy for employment passes to reduce the PMET, and also tighten up the S-Pass holder as well for those technicians and engineering job. So on the other hand, we should also recommend to MOM that if let's say the employer want to hire the foreign PMETs or foreign talents, the basic salary for this group of people has to be 10% or 20% higher than the local. This is to prevent, if let's say the employer is still willing to pay extra or additional 20% higher salary to the foreigner, then I myself as employer, I would expect that higher skill, higher qualification, higher experience or longer experience that in that particular areas. Thank you. That's all for me.
Greg, can I add on?
Yes, sure.
Okay, Taufik here. Okay.
Yes, Taufik.
Okay, let me tell everyone a story, just a quick one. I myself, back in the early 2000s, when I started working, I am in the IT field. I am in the field where, foreign talents are really dominating it. So back then, I feel that somehow I was made to believe that foreigners were all talented and Singapore needs them because we do not have the talents. And what amuses me even more back then, I feel that on their side, this created the impression that, to the foreigners that that we are useless and our government does not believe that we are good enough. But then, if you think hard again, how on earth we, being a first world country with education system which we claim better than them, made us useless, and they are more talented than us? This is something that I just cannot process. Okay, not to waste too much time here, I would like to touch on two important effects of this FT tsunami. This is based on my own anecdotal experience and also after talking to the people on the ground during the circuit breaker. So number one is the economic displacement. I think taking in foreigners is not a problem, as so long as we are lacking the talents and they are here to transfer the knowledge to us and to create job to us. I don't see there's any issue here. But I am sure that we all have heard news about some that were shown to have bogus degrees and they received their jobs not based on merit but on connection. And to make it worse, it did not also help the news of foreigners hiring their own people when we Singaporeans were being sacked with foreigners hired taking over our places. Not that we are now facing competition with foreigners in our own country, but we Singaporeans we are also being forced to accept lower pay and our wages are really being depressed. So it made us feel like, second place. And so I think this is only natural that Singaporeans now feel this contentment. Personally, I have been retrenched before. So I know how it feels like to be retrenched, and I know how it feels like as a Singaporean having a family and 3 kids desperately trying to search for a job. So yeah, that's what I would like to share. And I think the solutions have been given by my colleagues, Brad and Kayla. So back to you, Greg.
Okay, thank you very much. This question is supposed to be directed at Dr. Ang, so Mr. C has posted this question. Singapore has a low birth rate. What are your thoughts on how to improve the birth rate in Singapore? Dr. Ang? Yong, your turn? Yep.
Thanks, Greg. It is true, our total fertility rate is one of the lowest in the world, together with Macau and Hong Kong, right at the bottom. And the government is aware of this. For years, they've been pumping money, trying to encourage women to give birth. But unfortunately, it's not successful. One of the reasons is there's a perception of the difficulty in bringing up a child, the high cost of living, the stress of studying in Singapore. So all these various factors make it a daunting feat for a woman to consider giving birth to a child. And then there's this talk about 10 million population. So, and this 10 million population come from importing people, encouraging outsiders to become Singapore citizens. So on the one hand, you have a low fertility rate. There's hardly any replacement going on. It's as low as 1.05 or 1.6. All right. And then here you're talking about 10 million population. So it's a confusing message. If people know we fix it at 5.5 million, right, or 6 million, and then this is the ideal population for Singapore, and then we concentrate on building infrastructure, concentrate on quality of life, other than economic growth. It's always a balance. You want economic growth, you also want quality of life. So to encourage the total, for women to give birth, to encourage the increase in total fertility rate, you really have to stress on increasing quality of life. Make Singapore a fun place to work, to study, to bring up a child. But at the rate we are going, the perception is that it's very costly, very expensive. We are one of the most, in fact, we are the most expensive city in the world in 3 consecutive years. And then the stress, the perception that is very stressful. And then the definition of success is so narrow in Singapore. And usually it's academic success. So we should broaden the concept of success. Success in music, in art, in sports, in non-academic subjects. So we encourage Singapore to be not just an economic hub, but an art center as well in the region, a sports center, for example, so that when you have a child and the child is no good in academic subject, you can actually branch off into non-academic subject. So the burden, the stress on the mother, the parents would be, limited. So we got to broaden the concept of success. So it's a multifactorial thing. It's a multi-pronged approach to this total fertility rate. And clearly pumping money is not the solution. We got to create the environment conducive for a woman to say, I want to have a child, I want to have a baby in a great city with high quality of life, not in a stressful city where the daunting fear of population going to be 10 million. And then my child is going to compete with all these people who are imported as citizens. So, Craig, these are my thoughts.
Okay, thank you very
much.
much.
Can I add on?
Yes, please.
Actually, our party is in fact proposing a policy, especially for first-timers, to make housing affordable. So we are proposing a rent-to-own scheme, whereby they can rent the house for the first 5 years, and when they feel comfortable, then they can own it, or they can continue to rent. Because you want to increase the total fertility ratio, you need a proper home, not just a couch only. So what we are saying is we must give them the assurance, they have a home, then they have stability of life, then it'll be easier for them to start a family. Also, the education system should not be so stressful, should not be pump them with so much of curriculum and all that, and tuition and all that. We should let the children enjoy their life, let them learn at their own pace, give them diverse opportunities. Basically, we need to reduce the stress for the children. Yeah, thank you.
Can I add on?
Sure.
I think PSP is also thinking of having monthly bonus of $500 for the second and third child, all the way to 10 years old, and subject to further evaluation. So that's good news. If you want a baby, second baby and third baby, PSP will encourage you to have babies, because we are in our policy paper, in our manifesto, going to give a monthly bonus, or suggesting a monthly bonus of $500 up to 10 years old. The second thing is that I think the Ministry of Education is aware of the stress. So they are going to do away with streaming. It will be subject-based learning. So by 2027, all Singaporeans will sit for a common national exam. When what is subject-based learning, I think it's good, do away with streaming. But they have to focus on not just academic subject. It must be music, art, sports, and non-academic subject as well. Then truly, Singaporeans feel this is a place where I want to grow up. I may not be an engineer or a doctor or a lawyer, but I'm a good musician, a good artist, and I'm proud to be one. Over to you, Craig.
Thank you very much there, Dr. Ang. Okay, the next question we have is open to the panel, because apparently this person, Albert from Jurong, he's asking, why does PSP want to lower the voting age to 18? Anyone from the panel like to answer? What is the purpose of wanting to lower the age, the voting age from 21 to 18? Yes?
Yeah, can I put something in there?
Yeah, Brad, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there are many levels that you look at this. One of them is obviously for the young boys. They're going to do national service. They may end up going and fighting for someone that they're not even allowed to vote for. So I think that's immediately a reason why they should do it. But the other reason, and it's going to go in conjunction with education, is that you need to be more active from a young age. And if you have a responsibility to vote, you're automatically going to get more interested when it comes time to making those decisions. So if we have more civics in our education system, we understand a little bit more about being a community and a society and our responsibility as citizens, and you have a right to vote, that is going to really improve our political scene, which is something many people have talked to tonight. We've got to improve that political scene. And of course, at the end of the day, the future is going to be the children. It's going to be the young people. I mean, I'm 50 plus. I've probably got, well, I mean, actually compared to Doc, I've probably got 40 or 50 more years in me, I hope. But let's say I only go to say 70. It's still only 20 years, right? So it's not a long time. So we need to be building the next generation and the next generation and handing off to them as soon as possible. And to do that, the sooner they get engaged in politics and the responsibility of it, the better they will be and the better we think our country will be. And that's my initial idea. Thanks, Craig.
Right, Brett, thank you very much. We have a question, and this is from Kiloth. I hope I got the name correct. And the question is, does the party believe in pushing for a minimum wage policy? And if so, how can this be implemented? Because Singaporeans are subject to CPF contributions from employers, which foreigners aren't. How can we level the field so that we are not disadvantaged as compared to foreigners? So do I need to repeat the question, or is that clear to everyone? Once again, for your benefit of the panel, does the party believe in pushing for a minimum wage policy? And if so, how can this be implemented? Because Singaporeans are subject to CPF contributions from employers, while foreigners aren't. how can we level the field so that we are not disadvantaged as compared to foreigners? So who among the panel would like to answer this question?
Craig, I'll take on the question.
Yes, please, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Okay, actually, yes, it's a good question. Actually, we have thought over it, debated over it. We actually want to move even one step further. Instead of only a minimum wage, we want to talk about a living wage. So a living wage will take into account the inflation. So you work out probably a minimum, or rather a living wage is something like, at this juncture, is about something like $1,500 to $2,000 for a person to lead a decent life. So yes, we are all for a living wage for Singaporeans, which will take into account as well the CPF contributions. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, anyone wants to add on to that question? I mean, to answer to that question from the panel?
Yeah, can I just add a little something?
Sure,
Because
go ahead.
earlier on, Manwai talked about fiscal responsibility. And obviously, when you introduce something like that, the immediate response is, well, how can companies afford it? And of course, we've thought all these things through. And one of the things that we would look at is we'd look at the entire cost structure of doing business, because the wage component is not the major component. I think the maximum it goes up to in Singapore is about 40% thereabouts. So there's the other 60% that can also be looked at. A lot of it is related to rent. A lot of it is related to services, fees and taxes and things like that. So as we put these SME focused ideas forward and on startup ideas forward, and we create a new economy, we will make it a more balanced economy. So it's not top heavy with all the money going out in the rentier model and to the owners at the top, but it's spread out through and it's financially sustainable. So it's a living wage, but it's in a sustainable ecosystem. And back to you, Craig.
All right, let me
Can
see.
I add on this?
Yes, please, Kayla, go ahead.
I think in order not just to impose the minimum living wage or the minimum wages as an employer, on point of view is that we will not simply impose it, okay? It to be fair to the SME or the employers. So what I would recommend is that government should assist the SME or the business owner to take on the technology and reduce the labor intensive, for example, in the construction site, so that we bring in the new technology and reduce the rely on the foreign workers, like all the migrant workers. So we use our Singaporeans, hire our Singaporeans to manage the machineries and operate the technology to build up the house or the buildings. So in there, when we upskill the Singaporeans, then therefore we can ask for higher pay for Singaporeans. That's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, there, Kayla.
Sorry,
Yes?
can I just add one more, because that was a perfect example by Kayla there. Because we've heard when they've talked about being more productive that I think the government's used the term that a Singaporean can replace 3 foreign workers. Well, even if it was only 2, if you think maybe the foreign worker's only earning about $500, but he's staying in a dorm, which the employer is paying a couple of $100 for. He's paying $700 or $800 to the levy, to the government, which is like easy money for the government for what they're doing with, we don't know, which means his total cost for that employee is $1,500, $1,600, $1,700. Take 2 of them, that's $3,400. You could get a Singaporean, pay him $2,000 and CPF and be more productive with new machinery, and it will cost you less than employing those 2 foreign workers. So actually for the SMEs, it will be a perfect situation if that was encouraged and supported. And back to you, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So there's a situation that especially a lot of the PMETs, right, they have lost their jobs and they are told to go and reskill, upskill, and some even become an intern. But for someone at that age, so the question is, what can I do if I'm already, in my 40s or in my early 50s and I've lost my job and I used to be an engineer? What do you want me to do now? Become a nurse? So sometimes it's like, is it even practical for someone to do something like this? So what is the, this is the, big problem. So for those people who are, especially the PMETs, and at their age, they are losing, I mean, they have a lot of commitments, house, children, maybe even bought a car and all these things. So suddenly like having your carpet pull up from under you. So what can PSP do to help all these people? I think that's a real hot issue for a lot of PMETs in Singapore. So one of them you mentioned earlier, I think one of you mentioned that reduce the employment pass, right? The quota. Or was there even a quota? Kayla, would you know if there's a quota for employment pass?
Currently there isn't any headcount or quota imposed on the employment pass, and neither they don't need to pay a levy
Any
for
levy?
employment. Yes.
Oh, so
But then
there's
the person have to be at least a degree holder and above.
Oh, I see. Oh, so maybe there's an area for abuse in that sense, because no quota,
Yes.
right? Last
Correct.
time, like I saw the latest figures, the number of S pass was a lot and the EP was much lower, right? But now I saw the latest figure is quite shocking. Employment pass is as many as the S pass. So
Yes,
maybe they have
correct.
to do some homework and check
In
the
fact,
hiring practices.
yeah, just to add on this one is that because for employment pass and S pass itself, they need to post a 14 days job advertisement in this so-called job bank. But I'm very sure that how we know that the employer will never abuse the system. So it would be recommended that the MOM have to tighten up the monitor, the job bank, job advertisement, and check on those the employer have really call all the candidates for interviews, rather than simply that just when you apply, you just click yes, or I have post the 14 days job advertisement, that's it.
Right. Well, I mean, like you have so many companies, right, in Singapore who are maybe a bit like, biased. They try to employ their own friends or their own nationalities, be it from Philippines, from India, from China, wherever it is. So maybe it's time for the MOM to deputize a group of people to go and audit all these companies, right, whether they are following best practices in employment practices. So if they have too many foreigners, suddenly you go inside there, or like a deputy sheriff is in town, suddenly everyone will start following now, and then those who are guilty of jail, do not pass go, do not collect 200, then everyone will buck up and not play a fool anymore. Okay, folks, we are already down to the last 6 minutes, and a very active discussion that's been going on Facebook Live and on our Zoom webinar. So, because a lot of things are happening, so I did promise, all the viewers that in this last 5 to 6 minutes, right, maybe I should at least give out one of the trivia questions. So people say, yeah, you say, but you never do. We want to collect the PSP t-shirt or the cap or even the Otika otter. So my tech people, can you now please at least post one of the trivia questions if you can? The first one. And the first question is coming up. Okay, the first question that we have, in order to deny the incumbent a 2/3 majority in parliament, how many seats do alternative political parties have to win in total? The answer is actually on the screen. If you just tobalik the numbers, that is the number of seats that that is the answer to the question. Once again, in order to deny the incumbent a 2/3 majority in parliament, how many seats do alternative political parties in Singapore have to win in total? I'm giving you guys a big clue. Don't have to go and search. You see the word 2/3 there. Can you just move the numbers around? And that is your answer. And if you have the answer, the first 5 persons with the correct answers, please send it to contact@psp.org.sg. Please put me back on screen, my admin people. Thank you very much. That one cannot be any easier, right? The answer is there staring at you in the face. The numbers just switch, and that's the number of seats. Why is so important for us to stress that? Because as we go again and again reminding everyone, we are not trying to kick anyone out, but we want to be a good system of checks and balances. So PSP alone, can they win all 32 seats? I really don't know. it might not be possible. But together with the other alternative political parties, we should be able to not give them a 2/3 majority, so they cannot just change the law as they want. Okay, thank you very much there. And can we just bring up one of the poll questions, please, so that we have a chance to let people take part in the poll. Let's see what's the first poll that we have, the 2 questions that are coming up. Can my admin please bring up the poll questions if we have it ready? If it's not, we'll move on to something else. Okay, yes, we have now the first poll question. The government fully subsidizes healthcare costs for COVID-19 patients. Agree, somewhat disagree, and lastly, disagree. This is one of the poll questions, so very quickly take part in it. And the second question in the poll, the enactment of POFMA has a chilling effect on political discourse in Singapore. That means because of POFMA, everyone is not, maybe reinforces that fear that Dr. Ang was talking about in Singapore. So take it out, and I hope I have time to let everyone know the results. If not, we'll post it on our Facebook page or even on our website as well. Can we bring the poll questions out of the way, please? And we are like 5 more minutes now based on my watch, about 3 minutes actually, not even 5 minutes, 3 minutes to closing time. And can I give one more trivia questions? One more trivia question, okay? And then after that, I'll let Dr. Tan Cheng Bock speak so that we can wrap up this evening. We promise to end by 10 p.m. so we don't want to drag you guys. So guys, please bring up the second trivia question. This is very important. Can I just volunteer my service as a polling or counting agent for PSP or bracket any other political parties during the coming GE without the need to become a member? Is it true or false? Okay. So once again, can I just volunteer my service as a polling or counting agent for PSP or any other political parties in Singapore during the coming GE without the need to be a member? The answer is it true or false? Very obvious, huh? It is with the alphabet T. So once again, those of you that want to, like a bit glitchy, but I make it easy for you. So for those who answer these 5 questions, these 2 questions, 5 PSP polo t-shirts and 5 of the caps will be giving away. And then I'll save the article for myself. Okay, so only giving away 2 of the prizes. Now, just to wrap up this evening, we thank you everyone who has joined us for MeetPSP 3. Very active participation, and we try to answer as many questions as we can tonight. And now I'd like to give it to the floor back to Dr. Tan Cheng Bock for him to give us his thoughts, and going forward, we close this thing. And I do apologize that earlier on at the start of the program, I was having some technical difficulties, but that is the thing, Murphy's Law. So Dr. Tan Cheng Bock, please, the floor is yours for you to wrap up this evening's MeetPSP. Thank you, sir. Doc, you have to unmute your mic so that we can all hear you. Yes, lovely.
Okay. Anyway, I really enjoyed this exchange between the panelists and those who have asked all the questions. And out of this, I realized there are so many issues actually affecting Singaporeans. And these issues are so current and so important in the life of Singaporeans. Jobs, education, and the fear factor. So I think tonight's event has brought out many important issues that PSP will have to try to address in more detail when we go back onto our drawing boards and see whether some of the answers we gave were really good for that. They like it, or maybe have to find for better ways of answers to some of the searching questions. And how can this be achieved? I always ask myself. I think it's not with the politics of envy, nor should we always talk about this politics of anger. We never do that. I think PSP must avoid that. Of course, we must avoid this politics of fear that is in Singapore. And I think this is something I always very worried. And that one of the reasons why I was a little bit disturbed. And when I formed this political party, I was still fearful that not many will come forward and stand beside me and some of my colleagues the 12 of us, we were worried that the Singaporeans will not come forward. But so lucky, and maybe God sent, I've now harnessed a fairly good team. You have heard, I think those who have heard today's discourse between all the panelists and those who have asked those questions, there has been a very good exchange. Now, I think PSP, if we ever get into Parliament, we must ask the right questions. We must push for answers, which is very important. And we must speak up for one another. And perhaps for some of you who are listening now, you feel that there's something that you have learned from this evening's questions and answers. You want to participate in a much bigger manner, you can come and join us as a volunteer or even as a member. And I'm sure you're going to learn a lot from the many people that is now in PSP. You find that I have got a really wide spectrum of young men, women, all of different levels of life. And also some are very well educated, and some are not so very educated. But the interesting thing is, I think they have learned how to intermix and how to share ideas and help each other. That is very important. I always say that PSP at the end must be like a family. And as a family, we share each other's problems and also each other's successes. That is very important as a political party. So there's somebody who asked about remember they talk about accountability and so on. I think that forms the backbone of our party. And when we must get all those answers. In particular now when the government has taken $93 billion from our reserves, that is very a big sum. And therefore we must know how this money is being spent, how this money is being allocated to the various organizations, the companies. And at the end of the day, how much of this goes to the Singaporeans, to the ordinary man in the street? We want to know. And you need people to be in the house to ask those questions, to press for answers. So this is where I hope Singaporeans will look at PSP as a party that is responsible. Why? Because we have trusted political leaders in PSP. Now, one last thing I would like to say is that this election will be very close. And honestly, we are a young party. We are also short of finances. So we need some funding because running an election of this magnitude is not an easy task. Therefore, I hope that Singaporeans will come and give us some help. We are not fussy. We don't worry. You can give us. We don't worry about the amount you give us. I think also don't be worried if you think that you only give us even a few cents. We also accept it because it's a show of your commitment and your belief that PSP is going to do something good for this country. So with that note, I want to thank all the panelists, and I also want to thank all those who asked those questions, and also those who are watching at home in the comfort of the homes. And of course, we must thank Greg for his very superb way of managing this whole event. So Greg, where are you?
I'm here, Dom. I'm here. It's okay.
You are God sent to me. Okay. Thank you very much. Good night to all of you. Good night.
Okay, hold on. Doc, just hold on for a moment, please. Can we put all the panel on screen, please? Not just me alone. Can my admin please do that? We bring all the panel on screen. Everyone is on screen, right? Okay, excellent. Okay, so Doc, don't worry. It is my pleasure and my honor to be able to be of service to PSP and Singapore in general. So once again, as Doctor was saying just now, that it is a very expensive affair to conduct a general election. So even if every Singaporean want to give us $1, we all say 真正感謝大家 So when $1, if 1 million Singaporeans give $1 each, wow, this will settle a lot of the problem already. Also, this is something they can consider, and we will flash on towards the end of this thing when we wrap it up. You will have a QR code you can scan, or you can do it pay now, or you can even write us a check. So we are not shy or embarrassed, because we need the help. So physical labor, as they say in Teochew, last time my parish priest, I said, "O lui chuk lui, bo lui chuk lak." That means if you can, you don't have the money, you give the effort. If you have cash, you can donate cash as well. So we appreciate all Singaporeans to come forward and give us the support that we need. And I know the burden that is on our PSP candidates and members, right? Because many Singaporeans are hoping that PSP can spearhead the way. And I look forward in the next GE when PSP, Workers' Party, SDP, People's Voice, whatever, right, go inside there and make parliament, wow, a lot of noise, and then the PAP may not have time to fix so many of you at the same time, because too many don't know how to deal with you already. So thank you very much. We'd like to thank all the people who have joined us here tonight on our Zoom webinar for MPSP 3, and also all of you who are watching us on Facebook. So thank you very much. Good night, and have a wonderful weekend, and love to all. Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Send a stronger voice into Parliament to put things right again.
Lower cost of living, make housing affordable.
Good jobs for our citizens and decent living for our poor.